talk about balance, how people make decisions in heart. So, hard to do those, but we really think that you get more decisions with your head and heart. Sometimes that can be challenging. Right? I have found people like Darren who make decisions OR can be very clear and they know what to do. And that's a really great strength. Other people make hard decisions and there's some strengths in that. It's just that we're just trying to show, hey, this is what you bring to the table with your sequence. Gravity. I want to add something else to that. Towards supernaturally.
Are we able to see the actual words that our squad chose?
No.
Only the
numerics. Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody that's more balanced, are they able to, I guess, toggle back and forth between?
We're going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Okay. So this is what you see on your digital training platform, right? Josh, was this you? Is this what you said? 13? It is? Okay. Okay, 13 heads. So this is your 17 head, 4 heart. So this is Josh. Okay. This is Josh. So we believe that Josh makes decisions out of his head, right? I mean, he's 13 head. I mean, I believe that he does money out of his head. He does health out of his head. He does relationships out of his head. I mean, he does life out of his head. Are you ORCE, Josh? So he needs details in the plan, information. It needs to make sense. He and Darren are alike. If they have those two things, and Michael's like this, if they have those two things, they can make a quick decision. I mean, they don't have to go back and like, let's figure. No, it's pretty clear. We're moving forward, right? If they don't, and I said this to Darren yesterday, if they don't have one of those two things, I believe they stall. And like, we're going to wait until I get more information, or that plan doesn't make sense, and we're going to. Those sequences do very well in business. Okay. So there's some strengths about that clarity. Now, so they can make quick decisions. If they don't have that OR, then I think it slows you down. Would that be accurate, Darren? Josh, is that accurate? Michael? Yeah. Okay. So let's just look through this again. We're just nuggeting through just balanced numbers. I want you to understand this concept. So now I'm just reviewing with you. EC 17. Okay, so this could be somebody like you, JD. 7 plus 6 is 13. And so what is their balance? 4 what? 4 in the heart. So we believe that this person would end up making money decisions, 4 heart, health decisions, 4 heart, relationship decisions, 4 heart. Okay. So here's 2. I just gave an example of a sergeant major OR. Let's look at 2 CEROs. What's the difference between these 2? Same letters, numbers are different. You guys nugget through it before I show it to you. What's their balance for the A person on the left and the B person on the right? Do what? Oh, okay. You guys see the same letters? Right? They have the same letters. So give me their balance. Like nugget through that. Like what's the balance on the person on the left? 4 heart. How'd you get it? Let's just walk it through again. I know this is redundant for you. Just process. We'll just go.
The R and the O.
Uh-huh.
They're on the right.
Yep. Okay. 4. Very good. Okay, what about the person on the right? Same letters, numbers are different. Somebody else tell me their balance. Will? Good. And just process that with us again. I know it's redundant. But good. So I'm just trying to demonstrate balance to you here. But you can end up having same letters, different numbers, and you have 2 different people. And how they make decisions is differently, right? The higher the number, in some ways, the more extreme that person is in that area. Money, health, relationships, how they make decisions, okay? So I'm going to play a video for you, and you guys just watch.
So one day I got a phone call from Chief of Staff, and Chief of Staff said, "Hey, Chaplain, would you give the assessment to my commander?" I was like, sure, we can do that. And so he said, "I need a few days to set it up. He has a busy schedule." And I said, "Just let me know when." So that Chief of Staff called me one day and said, "Hey, Chaplain, I have a time." And so he said, "Be there early." He needs to be there 10 minutes early. And he has a very tight schedule. You only have 10 minutes. So don't be long-winded. And I was like, "Roger, sir, we can do that." So I got there about 20 minutes early. The Chief of Staff gave me some instructions again. And he had already given the assessment to his commander. And so it was time for me to go in. And so I knocked on the door as we do in the Army, and the general said, "Come in." And so I did. And so when I walked into his office was very long, and he had his desk at the very end of the room. And so everybody that came to see the general had to walk all the way down to his desk. And so that's what I did. I stood in front of his desk at parade rest, and he said, "I've already taken the assessment. Tell me what you know about me." And so I looked at his assessment, and the first thing that I said is that he was a jerk. I said, "Sir, you're a jerk." And I paused, right? And that's not really what a captain's supposed to do to a general, but I really believe what I said. So I said, "You're a jerk." And then I just continued to talk about his leadership, what kind of leader that he is, positive things and negative things. And then I also made some application at home. So I did that just for a few minutes. And then the general looked up at me and said, "You can be dismissed. You can leave." I was like, "Roger, sir." And so, no, thanks for coming, nothing. It was very blunt. So I just turned around and walked out. And about the time I got to the door, I began to open the door, and the general looked at me and said, "How accurate do you think that you were? Do you believe everything that you said?" And I turned to him with my hand on the doorknob, and I said, "I believe everything that I said, sir. I'm absolutely sure that it's true. It's 110, 120% accurate." And he said, "Come back." And so I closed the door. I walked all the way back over to in front of his desk. I stood at a parade rest position again. He said, "No, I want you to come around to the side of my desk." And when he said that, he grabbed a folding chair. He set it on the floor next to his desk, and he wanted me to sit down there. So now, instead of being in a parade rest position in front of his desk, I was sitting to his side of his desk, and we just began to talk. And we probably talked 30 minutes. And he asked me questions about his leadership style, what I thought were his strengths and his weaknesses, even at home. And so we got done, and before I left, he said, "I want to give an assessment to my family. Will you let me do that?" And I was like, "Sir, you're the general. You can do whatever you want to do." And so I made it happen where he could do that. So I walked out of his office, and as soon as I got out of there, the Chief of Staff was standing there, and he was upset. I could tell it in his face. He said, "I need you to get in my office right now. Get there right now." And so I walked in, he slammed the door, he sat down. I was standing in a parade rest position in front of his desk. He was like, "Why did you take so long?" I said, "Sir, it wasn't my fault. It was the general." And I told the story of what I did, and I was about to leave, and he wanted me to come back, and we sat down and we talked. And I said, "This is the general's fault, sir. It's not mine. That's what he wanted." He said, "I've never seen him miss any appointments, and he's already missed 3. And then he said to me, he looked at me and said, "Well, sir, you need to take that up with your commander." And then he said to me, "What was his assessment?" And I didn't tell him, because the general asked me not to share with any of his team members his assessment at that time. And so I didn't. And so the next morning I was about to go to PT, and it was about 5:30 in the morning. And not that PT starts that early, but I was getting ready, and I got a phone call on my personal work number, and it was General so-and-so. And he said, "Hey, this is General so-and-so. Can you come to my office right now?" And he was a big PT stud. He liked PT, and he wanted everybody to do PT. And so I was like, "Sir, I need to go do PT first." I was just poking fun at him. He's like, "No, you can skip it today. I need you to come to my office and see me." And so I went up to his office again that morning before even PT started for everybody else. And he had his wife's assessment, and he had his two teenage daughters' assessment. And so I began to sort of talk to him about his family. And so the general was out of balance, right? And so out of balance people, when their sequence is out of balance, they really struggle with some things and not others. And all of us with our sequence struggle with certain things. But when you're out of balance, and he was all head out of balance, he struggled with connecting with his team, right? He struggled with connecting with his family. I believe, if I remember, his wife was C first. He had an EC son, and it was a CE daughter. I think it was not 2 daughters, it was a son and daughter. So his out of balance sequence, he really struggled in certain areas. And so we began to really work with the general about who he was. We made him more self-aware. And he had really never seen it up until that day. And he told me that. He's like, Chap, I've really never seen how other people view me. And so that was a really big core moment for him, where he got self-awareness of how he was viewed by his team. And the truth is, his team was all in one corner. They were afraid of him. They were fearful. And so we began to work with him of how his team could end up being a more optimal team. But it began with self-awareness and understanding his sequence.
Yeah, so backstory very quickly is that I met with the chief of staff and his wife. I was doing some counseling with them, and it really helped them as a family. And so we ended up moving into leadership. And that general's still in the Army today. And I've communicated with him still a few times. So I've learned that commanders pick who their chaplains are, right? And so the point is, I'm gonna go back to Michael's question. So let's just take Josh. Josh, because you were our 13 head guy, okay? You may not be a jerk, Josh, so sometimes you probably can be, right? Yes, yeah, but I can be too. You're gonna hear a story about me and my wife later, so I'm gonna tell that. So I know exactly how that works for me. So let me say this. I don't believe there's any bad sequence. I said it in the video, and I want to reiterate it. It's really important. All of us struggle with certain things. I absolutely believe that. And I've just learned what I struggle with. So if I just make this very simple, money, health, and relationships. Do you think out of balance, let's say 14, 15, 16 head person, do you think they would do pretty well with a budget and money? Probably. You guys, I mean, I'm trying to connect the dots for you guys, because this is where it's practical for NCOs with their soldiers or whoever you're working with, right? There's a lot of great assessments out there that can do this. We're really wanting to get very practical, boots on the ground, like how to work really quickly, simply, in very practical areas. So our digital training platform gives practical advice that people can grab, actually do something with, and make a difference where lives can be changed and lives can be saved. You guys understand that? We're trying to connect. So OR heavy head person probably does very well with money. How do you think OR people do with health? They remember their appointments. They keep them, right? And usually when it comes to discipline, do they do that? Yeah. So where can an OR heavy head person struggle? In relationships. That's not a bad thing. It's just we need to be aware of it. So let's just take a 15 heart person. How would a 15 heart person normally do money? They would we're dealing with probabilities here, right? I'm a probability guy. That's right. Yeah, we're going to have fun. We're going to go. So on the most part, they probably don't do well with money. Now, here's what they care about. They care about helping those people in their life with it. So is that a good thing? So budgets aren't always the answer. How do you think they do with health? Probably not good. They could forget their appointment, right? They're probably not as disciplined. I mean, I have some first sergeants now who were first sergeants who I'm still friends with, who are out of the Army, who have blown up and are fat. They've been doing Army PT for 20 years. You quit having to do PT, and you're going to really see that sequence play out. So probably not. But what do they do pretty well at? They probably do pretty well at relationships. So not to put Josh on the spot, but I'm just trying to demonstrate, right, that we all struggle with certain things. So in the self-awareness piece, I want you to understand what you struggle with, and I want your soldiers to understand what they struggle with, and your family squads to know what they struggle with. We all struggle with things. I've just learned now to be honest with myself, to say, oh, who am I really? How do I make choices? Where are my areas that I need to work on? And there's hope for us. As long as we're teachable. And that general was teachable. And I really didn't call him a jerk. I called him something else. I just can't say that in the video. Right.
I got a question for you, sir. So one of my daughters is CORE and she is 0.
Okay.
Like, dead in the middle.
Okay. All right. So it goes back to that.
So she's perfect.
Okay, I'm 0, but that doesn't mean I'm perfect. So I'm going to go back to Will's question and Michael's thought. So one thing that, let me see here. One thing that we talk about is flexibility and adaptability. All right. So in a very simple way, if I take somebody like Josh, who's 13 head, and I take somebody who is 13 heart, I believe they would both struggle with each other naturally because they're so different. Somebody who's 0 could end up probably could deal with this person, 13 heart, can deal with a 13 head easier. So their flexibility and adaptability is natural. I think that's a skill that we have to work at. I really think people that are head heavy like Josh have to really work at people like me. Sometimes I could be too flexible for Josh. Like I'm too flexible because Josh said it yesterday, he doesn't like indecision. I think you told me that, right? And it's in our list. So if I'm a guy that's sort of like, I don't know, right? Man, that could just, I think, cause Josh like go off the chart. So when we talk about 0, we talk about flexibility and adaptability. And that's really, really a key element in how we connect with other people, to be able to be flexible and adaptable. That general was a fish out of water. And his job requires him to go to social events. He absolutely told me. Now he calls me Rob, I just don't like it. I want to go and stay as little as I can and come home. It just sucks the energy out of him. Is that bad? No, it's just that his job requires him to have to go do something that forces him to be in settings that he would prefer not to be in. But he knows he has to do them, right? So does that answer your question on 0? So we're going to talk more in day 3, 4, and 5 about that. But that's really, we're talking about flexibility, adaptability, and we're talking about high numbers, right? When it comes to decision-making process and choices. Yeah, is that good? Okay. So I want to show you something else here, because this is where we want to tell you, hey, don't always look at the one letter. There are 2 letters, okay? So with the little bit that you know right now, what is a C person? What are some characteristics of a C letter? Caring, compassion, kind. So would you say that this person would have that? Based on this, how do you believe they would make decisions, with their head or their heart? You're right. So let's look at this. I'm going to show you this just as an example. Okay. So we have a C letter first person who's 10-4, 9, 8. Nugget out of that. How is this person balanced? Which way? Darren, talk. I'm going to throw this to you. Just keep it. Talk out loud with me. ORCE.
So 17 and 14 for
Yep.
head and heart.
Uh-huh.
So +3 on the head.
Headset. Good. So we have a C person first who makes more decisions with her what? Head. Okay. So I'm just showing that to you for 2 reasons. One is that I'm trying to talk to you about balance. I'm trying to talk to you about head, heart, combinations. But we can get so caught up in first letter, like, oh, you're like we did our Simon game where you're C, you're whatever. That's okay for a period. But then we begin to layer it on again. And so don't get caught with that first letter that you think, hey, that's a C person, so they're this type. And then we just showed you that they make more decisions with their head. Okay? You got a question?
Yes, we're talking about balance. The heart thinkers.
Uh-huh.
Now,
Heart.
they're not good with money intrinsically, but not the law. that play into either relationship? Yeah, I mean, if money is like a primary.
I think we play out in all our home squad and our workshop, we play our sequence out, yes.
But your marriage is on the side of your money,
I agree with that.
okay? So if they're not good with money at all, then that affects their art.
Yes. Especially if they're married to somebody who's really great at money and they're spending a lot of money. Right. So I'm just trying to say in a quick way, if this is a single soldier, right, it's a guy. You're right. When it comes to you put somebody who's married or boyfriend and girlfriend together, we're going to talk about this later. But yeah, that will definitely be impacted. Good question. All right. So I wanted to show you a core person who start with the first letter and goes 3 head. Okay. And again, our takeaways for this module, I've already said it a couple of times. I would just want you to show you balance. I want to show how people can make decisions with their head or heart. Your soldiers are going to get this digital training platform that sees that, but I wanted you to nug it out. And then we have combination letters. We have the me, OC, CO. So we've got some of us that are head, heart, heart, head. And then we end up saying, hey, what do your high numbers mean? And we talk about a little bit at flexibility and adaptability. So it's a really important quality for people to have, and some people have it more natural than others. Any questions on Module 5? Any questions? No? Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. Let's take a 10-minute break. Joe, if we can turn some music on, and we'll keep moving. So Joe, if you can cut me off. Yeah, so that
Nothing's gonna keep me from your plans for me, pulling me closer. You lift me up, and your love is gonna fill my cup. It overflow, I can't get enough. I wanna dance, 'cause you're giving me a second chance. We're going up, going up. When you're here with me,